Welcome, everyone, to another WhiskyTube Roundtable. This month, it's a St. George's Day special. We have a great show lined up for you, celebrating all things English whiskey. Of course, we have the usual suspects joining us today. We have got Vin and Jeff. All right, boys.
Howdy doody.
How good is it?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad for a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's always suitably awkward because we've been talking for the last 5 minutes before it started. Now,
yes, now we are live. Now we are live.
Well, indeed. Now. Well, what's very cool this week, we have an extra special guest joining us. We have got Rob Patchett, the global brand ambassador for Cotswold Distillery. Hello, mate.
Hello. How's it going? Is everyone all right?
Very good.
Happy English Whiskey Day.
Happy English Whiskey Day.
We're renaming St. George's Day and we're calling it English Whiskey Day.
I'm sure that will go down fantastically well with everyone.
I'm there for it.
Oh, absolutely. Rob, thank you so much for joining us this week. Why don't you tell everyone who doesn't know who you are, what you do, and what brought you here today?
Yeah, mate, of course. So my name's Rob. I am the Global Whisky Ambassador for Cotswolds Distillery. I also sell the odd cask from here to there. I've been with the distillery for 7.5 years. My background is actually in running bars all over the place. Then I studied to be a sommelier in wine. So I've got quite a big wine background, but realised that really wasn't for me. So yeah, my whiskey background really starts from making cocktails and then working with the distillery and being a pest at the distillery, asking questions all the time. I've known Vin and Jeff for quite a long time through the scene, through the circuit, and that pretty much brings me right up to where I am today, which is sat here with you wonderful gentlemen, and we're about to chat about some cool stuff.
Well, I certainly hope so. So, for those that don't know what Cotswolds Distillery is and what makes them stand out from other English whiskey distilleries, why don't you fill people in?
Sure. So we are an English single malt whiskey based in the north of the Cotswolds, just outside of Chipping Norton. I always joke whenever people don't know where we are in the Cotswolds, I say we're halfway between Shakespeare and Clarkson, if that gives you a roundabout position of where we are. We focus on making single malt whiskey using only Cotswolds barley sourced from single independent farms in the Cotswolds. We've been going for 10 years this year, 10th birthday of Cotswolds Distillery this year. And our focus from day one has always been making whiskey we would want to drink at a distillery we would want to visit in an area that we love to be in. And that's sort of the trifecta of where we are as a distillery. And I think we've pretty much held all of that up quite strongly with regards to, we love the juice that we make. We make everything from, we do make gin, we do make other things, but whiskey is always the focus, always has been from day one. And, we do everything from a sort of Jim Swan perspective, which a lot of New World distilleries and English whiskey distilleries do as well, but we're just trying to emphasize good fruity single malt spirit amplified by first class casks. That's the best way I can summarize it in a short sort of way. Founded in 2014 by Dan Jaw, who just basically loved whiskey and needed something that he could actually be passionate about and believe in, and that is leading us right to where we are today, 10 years down the line.
How long have you been with them?
7.5 years. So I started.
7.5 years.
Yeah, I started about 6 months before we actually had whiskey. So I was just a regional sales guy driving around the Cotswolds. I had a bottle of gin and a bottle of cream liqueur, and stars in my eyes as to what could be the potential in the future of a distillery where we didn't really know where we were going. We just knew that the finish line was getting whiskey to market. And little did we know, it was kind of like when you pass your driving test and people tell you, now you learn to drive. Once we got that first whiskey out, now you learn to be a whiskey distillery.
Amazing. So have you found any particular challenges as an English whiskey distillery in what has historically been, I think, we could probably all agree, is a Scotch-dominated market. When people say whiskey, especially in the UK, I think, people lean immediately they jump to Scotch whiskey. How have you found being an English distillery, which is a fairly obviously new kind of a new area of whiskey? How have you found that?
I mean, as a category goes, it's only been going since about 2004, so it's a brand new, young category, and you know, you're always going to be 3 or 4 steps behind an Irish whiskey, a Scotch whiskey, even a bourbon. You know, because people don't know. I mean, you still get, oh, they're making whiskey in England. It's like, yeah, we're heading into 20 years of it now, but every sort of problem, every sort of comment we have faced into it. You know, the category is tiny. It's got 55 as of today, 55 very, very small quality driven producers. And if you ask me what problems we faced, I would say every single one. If you want me to be specific, give me some specifics and I'll tell you, because, you know, we don't do anything to work against Scotland. You know, I would say that most distilleries, especially ours, are small homages to what Scotch whiskey are. And so, you know, going into market, telling people we've got single malt whiskey, people not taking you seriously, people questioning you as to whether you can even legally call it whiskey because it's not made in Scotland, people talking about the fact that 3-year-old spirit can't actually be relevant in a whiskey market, people telling you that the casks that you use that are wrong. You know, you name it, people have said it, but at the end of the day, we know that as a category, it's a quality focused category. So you just got to have some thick skin, a smile on your face, a dram in hand, push forward, and just know that as a category, everyone is just trying to sort of, there's no hack. And trust me, we have tried every hack there is to jump forward as a brand, as a distillery. You just got to do it bottle by bottle, sip by sip, chat by chat, and just sort of bring people along for the journey slowly. There's no point in saying, right, we're English whiskey and we deserve everything that the Scotch do and everything that even the Welsh do. You know, we're still behind the Welsh with regards to a category. So for us, it is just, you take every single small step you can to doing everything with as much integrity as you can.
I remember when Cotswolds first came out. I think I've told this story a couple of times, but I bought a bottle beforehand. They did a pre-sale. I don't know if you remember that, Rob, but they did a pre-sale beforehand. So it must have been like, I think I must have been waiting like 2-3 years for that, for it to come out. And it was at the time, I think there must have been only the St George's distillery with actual whiskey out as well. And I remember sitting there, we arrived, me and my mate, we sat there, we went to get our bottles and the 3 samples were coming out and we were all just sitting there going, oh God, please be good. Like, because you don't know, right? We at the time, it was so, English whiskey was so new that we just didn't know what it was going to taste like at all.
I had that as well, mate. I remember the first time, because what we do with our signature whiskey, the main release, is we do like a 12-week marriage. So we age 2 casks separately, red wine, STR and bourbon, and then 12 weeks before bottling, we'll proof it down, marry it into a singular tank, and then put it back in cask. Talk about that, I'm sure, later on. But until we'd done that marriage, we didn't know the final product 100%. And I remember a sample was going around the office. It would have been just before Whisky Life Paris in 2017. And I remember the first time I tried it, and I just kind of went, oh God, it's really good. Oh God, it's really good. We're going to be fine. But up until that first sip and that first dram, you know, we had an idea. We knew that we had good spirit and everything, but that final product, that first thing that we were basing an entire festival around, that's where you probably had your first dram, Vin. You know?
Yeah, it was. And it was like, I mean, obviously we're still fighting against the kind of the bad vibes of NAS going around the world, but even back then, it was like an absolute no-go. Like Scotch was only just kind of merging out of their age statement normals, and having a 3-year-old English whiskey was probably a scary thing for you guys. But yeah, it was first sip happened, and it was just like, yeah, we're all okay here, guys. Everyone move on.
Awesome. So I can see you taking a sip. There's a thing we do every week, and it is what is in your glass. So as this week's or this month's guest, I should say, why don't you tell everyone what is in your glass?
Well, I'm very, very fortunate given my role at the distillery. And so this evening I'm having a dram of our 7-year-old single cask STR that is in our hand fill at our visitors centre. It's at 54%, which I think is the perfect ABV for this. And yeah, that's the first time I just tried it, hence the reason why people might have just noticed. I just went, oh my God, it's absolutely outstanding. So yeah, that's what I'm drumming on right now. A bit of the old hand fill from the visitors centre.
It's so far from me. I was like, how far is the distillery? It's
Where are
5
you?
hours. I'm up in Glasgow.
Okay, let's get you a flight to Birmingham.
Yeah, well, it won't be long until I'm down in Birmingham. I think I'm due a visit to Vin at some point anyway. But next time I'm down, I will make a point of coming by to see you, because just to get that, if nothing else, because that sounds incredible. I'm a sucker for a hand fill. So
I got you. I've got you. After this, leave it with me. I've got you.
legend. This is what we love.
I can confirm as well, it's awesome. I went to go and see him a couple of weeks ago, and Rob kindly handed me a little sample of that. And I got home, because I was driving, obviously. I got home, and I was like, yeah, go on, I'll give him a go. And I was just like, it's one of those ones where if I was doing it on camera, it would have been a rubbish video, because I would have just been like, right, all of you, keep quiet for a second. I'm just going to sit here quietly and just... Yeah, super stuff. But yeah, you've got no excuse, Ben, because I'm only 45 minutes away. So when you come see me, we're in the car, mate.
Yeah. I'm 100% down for that. You know me. Right. Questions though. What have you got in your glass?
Me?
Yeah, mate.
So I am. I'm going to be oddball here. I've got all of my English whiskey here to the side. 3 of which are Cotswolds and various others. But to start things off, I'm going to go with my circumstantial wheat. Which is something that they're moving away from, actually. They're moving away from this experimental stuff and into kind of normal whiskey. I say moving away. They are doing it in the background, but before they had whiskey, they were releasing all this stuff here. But this crazy thing is 5 months old. That's what that 5 at the end means.
Really?
Yeah, man. 5 months old. It's insane. But they were selling it at a loss, I think, as well. It's like 30 quid, I think I've got that bottle for. So I was like, yeah, I'll have that. Jeff's already smiling. Sucker for a bargain.
Yeah, that's how you lure me in. Tell me the price and tickle me, tease me.
But yeah, that's me for now, and I've got a bunch of other stuff that I can drink throughout the night: Bimbers, Cotswolds, Adnams, and a bit of English. The English.
Jeff, what's in your glass?
So I'm double fisting. No, that's not the term. Double parked.
Jesus Christ!
He doesn't say much.
Cancelled.
No.
Cancelled. We're off. We're gone. Done.
That's a local reference, but yeah, I think the more global term is double parked.
All right, mate. I'm
I've got
sure.
one
I'm sure it's a
of,
local reference.
The Cotswolds Reserve is on the glass, and then the second one that's on the go is a tiny little sample, because my English collection is very much dwindled, and it's just 3 bottles of Cotswolds now. So to try
Just 3.
Just 3, yeah. To try expand it a bit more, I've got one of my archive samples, and this is the Dartmoor ex-bourbon cask, and it's a real strange one. Like, when I had the bottle at the time, I was a bit perplexed by it. It was maybe, I don't know what the best way to describe it, like maybe rotten eggs slightly. It's not sulfuric or anything like a real heavy sherry thing or anything, but
Egg.
a real eggy, creamy, strange one. And this one has been in a plastic sample probably for a year, which is not a smart move, and it's not helped it either. It's in theory, Dartmoor Distillery is in theory my nearest. I think maybe that's an hour. Cotswolds, hour and a half.
Circumstances got to be, surely. Yeah,
that's about just shy of an hour, I think. So they're all. So being in the southwest, there's a few things down here now, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, this is the second one, and it's a strange one going back and forth between the two, because there's definitely a creamy element in both of them. But yeah, it's a peculiar one, worth trying, but not one that's high on my ranking list.
Ben, you got me looking at the chat for questions. A couple have popped in for Rob since we've been talking. Do you want me to just shout them straight out?
Yeah, go on, far away. I've not got a lot of real estate on my screen right now, and I'm not wearing my glasses, so I can't actually read my other display.
Go on, I don't think anything too taxing for you, Rob. But Codger, a guy called Simon, he's asking for: are you going to start doing a locals discount card? Or if not, can he have a discount on the rum? I think he's basically asking for there.
Well, he's a pal on Discord now, so I might have to sort something out. Yeah, if you join the club, there's always a discount. And then if you send me a message, I'm sure I can figure something out.
Yeah. Another one then.
How non-committal did I come off there? Just enough.
Just enough. Yeah, just enough. Yeah, send me an email that I can easily ignore. The other one, I think we're going to talk about it a bit later on, but Petehead, a guy called Frank, he's asking what our thoughts on the well, he's put EWA. I think he means English Whiskey Guild, but we've got a whole section on that a bit later on. So we'll
put a pin in that.
I don't know if we'll deep dive it, but we'll definitely have a little chat. Is that it? That is it, yeah. But like I said, any questions for Rob or for any of us, chuck it out there.
Keep them coming.
I'll interrupt Ben and his flow as often as I can.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Sorry, I need it sometimes. So I got two questions.
What's in your glass? You didn't say, yeah? Did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have got the Cotswolds 2015 Odyssey Barley, and I have no idea where I got it from. I have no idea. I have got it, but I have no idea why. So I went through my shelf earlier and pulled everything off, and I was like, right, I need all my English whiskies. For those that remember my old live streams, I used to have a thing called the liquor picker, where I'd press a button and it would spin a wheel and it would randomly select a whiskey from everything I've got on my shelf. Well, I refactored it slightly, so it's only my English whiskey. So I've pulled them all down, I've got them next to me, and I just it's not had too much out of it. So at some point, I've picked it up, rattled a few drams. I've rattled a dram or so out of it this evening, but it's nice juice.
Yep.
I don't know why there's not less of it, to be honest.
It just gets the job done. That signature, that's one of those whiskies. Dan always says this, the owner of the Cotswolds Distillery, and I agree with him. You can have your whiskey shelves, your whole displays, like you guys have got behind you and everything like that. This whiskey is a kitchen whiskey, which means that it's not for cooking. It means you just have it in your kitchen, and when you want a dram, or you want something over ice, or you want a highball, or whatever, that's the whiskey. Or you want to give somebody something to try. That's just a good whiskey to have in your kitchen and just be like, yeah, let's just open it for the sake of opening it. And it's fruity, it's creamy, it's got all the flavor profiles that you want from a good single malt whiskey. 46%, all natural color, non-chill filtered. Even to this day, after everything that we've released, it is up there with one of the best whiskeys that we do, just because it delivers.
Do you know something that I really get from it? So I'm really into like home brewing, and quite large scale as far as home brewing goes. And there is a specific smell when you mash in. Like you can smell it. When you mash in, there is that smell, and it smells great.
Cereal.
It's that like sweet, sugary, warm porridge-like cereal.
Yeah.
This has got loads of that. Like it's very, very specific as well. I don't think like a huge number of people that's something that they'd know unless you've done homebrewing before. It's then when you walk into someone else's kit when they're homebrewing and you smell it and you're like, oh, I remember that smell, and that is exactly what it's got.
So one of the challenges I have of my job is I have to work on tasting notes depending on where I am in the world. And usually you can get away with it. People know what chocolate are, people know what peaches are, blah blah blah. But with this, I always get sugar puffs, and that tasting note and that fragrant, that sort of aroma doesn't travel.
No,
it doesn't travel at all.
Well, what you need to be taking with you is a box of sugar puffs.
Sugar puffs, yeah.
So in England, we have this. Smell it, have a taste.
This is the honey monster.
Hey, at the end of the day, you global brand dam for Cotswolds Distillery and sugar puffs.
Ironically, I think the Sugar Puff brand ambassador job probably pays better.
You've got to wear that costume though.
Yeah, exactly. That's the caveat. That's the payoff.
You've got to fight the sugar monster, whatever that is, honey monster for it.
Wow.
I was going to ask you, what's your favourite Cotswolds juice, and what is your favourite non-Cotswolds juice?
Okay, so I'll go with non first, just to get it out the way. I think, like everyone, your journey is always specific to where you are at a certain point. I'm going through this whole kick right now of just trying to find bourbon cask-led stuff, second fill, first fill. I just want to taste that spirit. That's kind of where I'm at. But I just need it to have a little bit of punch to it as well. It's not where everyone is, but yeah, and just trying to taste as many of those purest bourbon expressions as possible. So, I'm going through, and I'm going through, obviously, like most people in my role, that New World whiskey category thing as well. So, I was talking to Graham from Ardnamurchan the other day, so I'm trying through a lot of their stuff. And then, obviously, we're doing some stuff with Milk and Honey. Don't know whether I meant to say anything. So we've been trying through a few of theirs as well. One of the constants of working with Dan is that you sort of forget that you can't tell people what you've got coming up, and then it just slips out. But yeah, so I mean, I am really enjoying Ardnamurchan at the moment. I'm a big believer in good juice comes from good people as well. So I really like it when you speak to people at distilleries and they're nice people. And Connell and Graham are two of my favorites in the industry. And then we've just done some work as well with Georgie and Fabrizio over at the Heart Cut, an independent bottler that's just started. And some of their liquids that they've got coming out as well are absolutely phenomenal. So I've been enjoying quite a lot from them as well.
Awesome.
Cotswolds wise, give me a day, give me a scenario, give me a time. I mean, Signature, the one that you've got right there, which is kind of what the name we're going with for that whiskey, that's my thing. But I was having our peated cask with Mexican lime soda as a highball the other night. That worked really, really well. And then I think I've got to say that, no, I'll leave that till later, but we did a single cask earlier in the year that was one of my favorites as well. And then, yeah, just Founder's Choice, good old STR, but I bring it down like 54 to 50, so that's kind of my thing. Jeff, you got one over your shoulder there as well. But yeah, that STR cask down at 50%, that's glug juice right there. That is, that'll get the job done 10 times over.
Amazing. I'm similar to you at the minute. I'm really into. I call it standard issue whiskey. Nothing special. Nothing like as in they've not gone wild. Just good juice in like a good refill bourbon casks that's just been sit for the right amount of time. So you can that is about the most standard, bog standard sort of baseline you can get. I used to go into so I drink in the pot still a lot in Glasgow, which if you've not been, you absolutely should.
I haven't been, but I've heard amazing things.
Yeah, man, great bar. But there's there's over 1,000 whiskies in there, and you can name anything. The bar staff are incredible. Name anything, they'll find you something. So I'll go in and go, I want something heavily sherried. I want something like weird, crazy peated. I want some Tokai cask, whatever. They've got it. And recently I've just been I just want a good standard issue refill bourbon, something nice.
Yeah, just good spirit into good wood, making a good whiskey. Very, very simplistic. It's kind of like anything. You need to know the fundamentals before you can start going esoteric and weird and all over the place. And if you just got good spirit in really good, honest bourbon casks, you can't go half wrong.
Nah, wholeheartedly agree. So we were speaking earlier about the liquor picker, which it might be time for it to come out very soon because I'm running out of juice. But
neck it.
What does everyone's English whiskey collection look like? Because obviously, there is always going to be, I think, people are always going to compare any whiskey. Well, especially in our context, so as in, like, I think the four of us are probably relatively similar in that respect. Are going to compare it to Scotch. It's going to be that people are going to look for equivalents and stuff. But what does your English whiskey collection look like?
Mine's a little bit one-sided, so I'll let you guys answer.
Yeah.
Well, mine's one-sided as well. Mine predominantly is just these two Cotswolds and then another Signature. So, but I'm very much down the English whiskey rabbit hole. Like the amount of bangers that I've had. Think off the top of my head, so I can't do. But yeah, bottle-wise, I need to up my game. But yeah, for me, I don't see it as English versus English versus Scotch. It's very much, I think maybe English whiskey, maybe due to it's a newer, and there's quite like the involvement of STR cask. STR is just my jam because it often tastes like jam, which helps. But it is just real. I think that's the main reason I've clicked so much with Cotswolds. Is like the signature. So that's my all-time favorite English whiskey. And I think going by my spreadsheet, it's quite embarrassing because Rob's here hearing this, this is my plan before I knew you were coming on. I'm not just like trying to pimp myself out for your bottles, but I will. And it's just a case of...
It's a done deal. You're good.
Yeah, I can't remember where I was going with this now, to be honest. English whiskey is just, like Spirit of Yorkshire. I've had absolute banging stuff as well.
Yeah.
But I can't think off the top of my head. But I think Signature is maybe my like top 4 all-time scoring because I'm sad and have a little spreadsheet. It's up to like 400 rows now of every whiskey, and there's a good heft of Cotswolds near the top.
Thanks, Jeff.
But that's enough. I now want to say how much I hate it just to balance out. But
so cute.
I was looking today because the Cooper King Distillery they kind of own that English whiskey map. They got out early with that, so they've been updating that, and they've updated that today. And we're looking at 55 English distilleries in some way or another producing whiskey.
So that's 6. That's 6 in the last 12 months.
It's
just
crazy.
49 last year.
I'd love to see them in like to be able to reorder them in terms of like age, like how long they've been going. Because there's some sleeper ones like Adnams. I've got a couple of Adnams here that they're a bit of a sleeper one. They don't really knock around on social that much. But for me, go on.
Is that Adnams the same? Is it just the brewer?
Yeah.
The brewer Adnams just producing. Okay, cool.
Yeah, if you go to Norfolk, it's just Adnams beer, Adnams gin, and Adnams whiskey as far as the eye can see.
Because I've drunk Adnams back when I lived down in Kent. I was super into my real ale. I used to drink a lot of Adnams. I always had bottles of Ghost Ship right in the fridge. Mm-hmm. That's Adnams.
Yeah.
So they've just started distilling it now on top.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they've been going quite a long time with it, to be honest with you. They've been going longer than we have, so they're probably 11, 12 years into the journey.
I've got a 7-year-old here. So
Jesus.
They've got juice. That's what I'm saying, man. They're flying under the radar at the moment. So I guess they're just chilling, doing their thing.
That's completely passed me by. I had no idea that Adnams were distilling.
They're doing rye, grain, and single malt as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. That's something you've learned today, isn't it?
It is.
But there's so many of them now. I couldn't buy them all. There was a time when you could get quite a few. I'm missing quite a lot. I've just killed off my last Lakes, although Lakes has had their troubles recently. Along with I'm going to say it, guys. They've got a pre-order for a new bottle coming out for £185. Lunacy. Absolute lunacy if they're watching, but anyway, whatever. I do like Lake's juice, but
they got to make that money somehow.
Unless they
just made it though, they just sold.
Yeah, they just
sold for 70 million quid.
That does include 24 million in debt though. To be fair, but
I didn't want to be I didn't want to be the hater. Hey, I like the guys. I like the guys at Blaze. Kirsty's wicked. Yeah. Hamil is one of my absolute favorites. Luca, James, the whole team. I think they're absolutely wonderful. And kudos for getting a big old payday as well. So hats off to them.
Yeah, I mean the stuff I've had before. I mean the Whiskey Makers reserves I was drinking were stunning. They went through a bit of a phase of putting out a bit too much. I think they were doing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 special releases a year, which was killing me. But just looking at the list over here, there's so much stuff that's going to be coming through at some point. A lot of sleeper ones that we don't hear from much, but try to think about new distilleries. There's a big old gap in the East Midlands that could do with some distilleries in there. There's nothing in over there really. What we got 10 and 11. That's White Peak and Wharf, which really are right over in the west central. But yeah, there's huge amounts.
Thing is, though, I mean, I always say this to people when I talk about how many English whiskey distilleries there are. Like, even today, there's 55, right? But if you take the entire production of the entire category, so all 55 distilleries all put their liquid together as a singular unit, it's about 4 million liters a year, which is, that's a bad year to a normal distillery in Scotland. Do you know what I mean? So it's 55, but it's divided into such a small amount. I mean, if you think about it as well, Glenlivet and Glenfiddich, they're 21 million litres a year, and the entire English whiskey category is 4 million litres a year. So, there's still so much that can be got from such a small category. Do you know what I mean? Like people say, oh, the Scotch scared. I'm like, why would they be scared of an entire category that doesn't even make 4 million litres a year? Like it's boutique, Yeah.
I mean, you could say, like, when you're talking about stuff like that, it's like, is Scotch scared of bourbon? No, it's not. It's a different category. Is Scotch scared of Irish whiskey? No, it's not. So it's like they'll carry on making, they'll carry on selling it. When there's enough of it sitting around on shelves that they have to start worrying, they'll do something else with it. It'll be fine, guys.
There's plenty of whiskey.
There's plenty of whiskey, and
There's plenty of whiskey.
The worst thing that will happen is that it sits on a shelf for a little bit longer, and I can actually buy it off a shelf instead of having to scrab around for it. That's the only worst thing that's going to happen.
So, just to put it into context, distilleries that make 4 million litres of pure alcohol a year, which is what we all measure on, is Tamdhu, Glenfarclas, and Glenellachie. So each one of those distilleries makes the same as the entire English whiskey category.
Yeah, that's
Schooled.
A drop in the golden ocean.
Yeah.
There you go.
Speaking of, I'm just going to fire the liquor picker real quick because I want to see what I'm going to drink.
I want to see the liquor picker.
I don't.
You might not. Yeah.
You'd have to go and see the stream. It literally is just a wheel that spins. If you jump on the stream,
It's right in the middle. Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah. Bimba Oloroso, apparently.
All right.
Let's have a look, shall we?
Do you know what? Even though you said it, I was still watching it spin on the delay.
Yeah, I was watching it spin.
Honestly, it's addictive. Before, when I was obviously testing it, I was just sat there running it over and over again, just to see, just to make sure it was truly random. I mean, it is. It uses just a JavaScript random number generator. It's about as random as it can get in basic programming. But yeah, it's quite addictive just to sit there and watch it and keep spinning it. Even worse when you get when we had when I was doing it with all the bottles, and you'd get a bit of a shitter, and you're like, nah, I'll just roll it again.
Re-roll.
Just got to plug the old laptop in back in a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, rookie error.
See,
I've been at the distillery all day. We had a big old presentation, so I got back and just threw my laptop at the desk, and then been watching Baby Reindeer with my wife, and I was like, oh crap, I've got to be on a live stream in 5 minutes, so I just threw everything on.
What a contrast from that to this.
yeah,
Yeah, you guys are cheering me up quite a lot. I'm not going to lie.
oh Christ! See, this Bimba is good. It is good. I've only ever bought Bimba. Well, I bought that one from the distillery with yeah, that got rattled.
Half a bottle, mate. Yeah,
yeah. You're an arsehole.
Yeah.
Which one's that?
It was the Bimba Club release number 3 Imperial Stout cask. And we true story, Rob. There was 4 or 5 of us down there. We went down for a visit, and we did a tasting with them, and we were like, yeah, this is cool. And we got to this one, and all of us looked around at each other and were like, how much is this one, Matt? And he went 70 quid or something like that, 75 quid, and all of us just went beep 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 beep.
Yeah, it was just
and off we went. Yeah,
yeah, and it just shut up and take my money. Literally, shut up and take my money.
Even Mac, who had to take it back to Tokyo, bought it. And
Really?
Yeah.
70 quid, though. You can't go wrong. That is an amazing price as well.
That's up there, but so was the juice, so I was quite happy to pay. But the rest of the Bimbas, I buy at auction for like 40, 50 quid a bottle. I don't because the juice is good. I generally don't bother checking what the retail price is. I think I might have overpaid on one of them by a £5. But yeah, I just 50 quid a bottle. I'm quite happy to pay.
This is an interesting subject right now because I feel like the whole auction bubble that we all went through during the COVID and whatever it's starting to burst a little bit, and you can really get some below retail bargains from seriously good distilleries on auction now, just because there's just so much. And I don't know what's made it burst. I don't know what's changed, but you can get some bangers for like 50, 60 quid, well below retail on auction.
Yeah, I always make a point of spamming a few quid on the auctions, just because, as you say, you can get some. I think a lot of people probably fucked a few people over and, cleared a distillery shelf out thinking they were going to make a few bucks, and then sat on it for a year or two, and now we get to scoop it for next to nothing.
Yep.
So I had some talking points about this kind of, because obviously the Scotch versus English thing is always going to come up. And obviously, I think, the four of us, we hold a very high opinion of English whiskey. We understand that while they are not direct competitors in market share, but I definitely feel that there is a competition in quality. Now, do we think that aligns with public opinion?
No, I do. It depends where you go. Obviously, we've started noticing there's two consumers in whiskey globally, and that is usually people that concentrate on what's on the bottle or people that concentrate on what's in the bottle. And so there are still markets out there that are just like, is it Scotch? No, not interested. Versus people that go, that tastes amazing. Jesus, what casks have you used? How long is your fermentation? And they're you go to South Korea, they care what's in the bottle. You go to Taiwan, they care what's on the bottle. So each market is, I've been doing quite a lot in Turkey, and amazing whiskey drinking nation, but they are all about like, is it Scotch? Is it blended? They're very early in their journey. So yeah, what I always joke about is if I walk into a bar or a shop with a Scotch distillery rep, I'm 4 steps behind them automatically. And that's just because, that category is 250, 300 years old, whatever you want to say. We're 20 years old. And I think, again, talking about that capacity of production, we make 500,000 litres, so we're the same size as Kilcoman or Ben Romack, and, then they're good, but they're not global powerhouses. So when it comes, the other thing that I get, and you might have got it if you've ever talked about English whiskey with other people, is what's it like in Scotland? Like, if you make whiskey, are you a Speyside? Are you a Lowland? Are you a West Coast? And it's like, well, none of them. We're not really, you can't really pigeonhole yourself into any of those because we're so small. We've got so much more diversity. We've got more flexibility. We're not bound by we don't have climates like they do on the West Coast. We're not only using sherry. I know lakes do, but that's them. There's so many different conversation points that I encounter on a regular basis that, yeah, it does make it quite difficult, because when people start bringing Scotch in, it's like, well, they laid out everything. They made the mistakes, they made the changes, they made the benefits. They laid out everything for everybody that's making New World whiskey. They are the French winemakers and the Italian winemakers to those that were then starting to think about making wine on the West Coast of America or Australia or South America. It's the same paradigm, really. So I guess that's a long-winded answer of going, there's no point in making a comparison. We make whiskey, that's about it.
I think I'd like to interject there and say as well, like, when we're talking about Scotch regions, it's all well and good. It's handy to categorize things, but actually these days the regions are by and large nonsensical anyway, because unless you're doing the whole process start to finish, like literally, like what do they say, grain to glass, within a few yards of the building, your terroir's gone anyway, because most people are ordering their barley in from wherever, and they're specifying their peat levels early on. They're distilling it on site, sure, but unless you're graced with a warehouse like you guys have got, it's going off somewhere else anyway. I think probably some of, am I right saying, Rob, that the early Cotswold stuff was all aged in a warehouse in Liverpool, right? So it's
So having your own warehouses to age your own stuff on site is expensive and it's difficult. You want to have a bonded warehouse, you've got to commit 250 grand to the government up front. So doing that on a regular basis with multiple warehouses is expensive. So yeah, people do send their stuff off to get aged elsewhere, especially on the islands, because they've just got no space.
I tell you, the amount of time I've driven 3 hours north to go to a distillery out in the middle of fucking nowhere, and I'm like, oh, you know, really feel like I'm living the north of Scotland dream, and I'm like, oh, so where are your warehouses? Oh, just outside Glasgow. It's like I literally drove past the fuckers, 20 minutes from my house to drive here for you to distill it. Like, if you go to Speyside, probably about 50% of the vehicles, it must have been a day of the week, but probably about 50% of the vehicles I drove past are giant tankers. Just going from going to distilleries, picking it up, doing whatever, sending it elsewhere. It's not all staying in at the distillery in this little town at the arse end of the Highlands. It all ends up around the corner from me for the most part. It seems.
There are certain elements of the romanticism that are, you know, not quite there, and you know, there's this whole debate. You know, Whiskey Cast, the podcast with Mark Gillespie. So the whole thing right now, he posted a picture online about palletized aging, which you have casks standing up as opposed to dunnage, where you have them laid down. And there's all these people arguing about, oh, well, it looks better in dunnage, and you get, you know, more surface area to spirit to wood and things like that. And it's like, it's money. It's just money. It's cheaper to have it palletized. It's efficient. You can get more in. That's it. That is it.
It's also really terrifying when you just see them stacked up on pallets, like 8 high, and they are tight. Versus obviously when you go to a racked warehouse, you can see it all on the racks. You feel safer in a racked warehouse than you do walking around when it's literally just stacked on pallets. That shit's terrifying.
Until you got to get it down, and then you're like, am I wearing my Steelies? Am I not wearing my Steelies? Am I going to have toes at the end of this?
I've not had the fortunate position of having to retrieve one of my casks because I don't have any. So, right. Well, this brings us on nicely. So, obviously, we talk about a lot of the rules and stuff that exist in Scotch whiskey, which I think there is some amount of public opinion that feels as though, for those that know just enough. You know, there's the age for a minimum of 3 years in oak, in Scotland, single malt, 100% malted barley, etc. We all know that stuff. From a consumer perspective, I can understand how that might offer a kind of bit of security, that they feel like that, you know, they're paying for a product that has a minimum standard, should we say? I use that term loosely, but you know, a minimum sort of standard that they feel like they're buying into. Obviously, the formation of the English Whisky Guild, which I don't know huge amount about. I did some research before we came on, and you know, they're trying to get what is essentially a geographical indication for English whiskey. You know, a definition of what is English whiskey.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
You guys want to say anything, or shall I just go on?
Crack on.
I'll say something if you don't mind. Then,
yeah, go.
Like for me, like it's obviously, you know, anything there's like pros and cons. Like the stark comparison is obviously SWA, which has held the Scotch torch bright for many years, but to some, you know, me included, sort of can stifle creativity and innovation within the sector. But that said, you know, things need to be protected. That's the main focus of it, isn't it? Right. So, you know, if there's pretenders out there importing English whiskey and calling it English whiskey, but actually it's German or whatever, you know, that needs to be protected for sure. I only hope, and I know that there's very cool people at the top of it, Dan included. I only hope that it's implemented in the right way and it doesn't force people to only distill in one way, basically, in the long run. But hopefully you'll be able to tell me different.
Yeah, I sat on the marketing element of the English Whisky Guild for a short amount of time, and there are two ways to look at it. Listen, you want an English Whisky Guild, it's just to set out some quality-driven stipulations. You know, try and do it all on a copper pot still. Make sure that you're using English barley. Flexibility on wood. There is a lot more flexibility on wood. Doesn't have to be oak. It can be chestnut. It can be acacia. Also, the seasoning of the wood. I think another thing that is overlooked is where you can bottle English whiskey, because obviously to be a Scotch, you have to bottle it in Scotland. There is a bit more flexibility around that, because obviously a lot of English whiskey distilleries don't have bottling halls. So they have to send it to Scotland or wherever else to get their whiskey bottled. So that does give you a flexibility. And, if you want to scale that notion, it does allow your whiskey to be bottled elsewhere by independent bottlers as well. So you can send IBCs of your stuff to people in Japan. They'll bottle it over there, but that means that you can get cheaper independent bottled whiskies in other markets as well. But the other side of the coin is protection. I've seen, so a lot of distilleries, I know that we went through it as well. When you go into the Chinese market, you will find that usually someone has already bought your IP. Somebody already owns, your intellectual property. So you have to go through a certain amount of litigation to get it back. We did. And so what the English Whiskey Guild will allow you to go through is just having what the GI definitely will, is the protection of the quality, but also the category, so that there is an element of imposition on someone that is pretending to do English whiskey. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but look, does it please everybody? Absolutely not. But is it there for the quality? Is it for the sake of the category? Is it there? Yes, absolutely it is. And again, it's such a small category. There's decades and decades and decades before we're ever going to see any level of production to the size of what Scotch is. So it's not really stifling a category, because it's such a small category,
For now.
For now, yeah. I mean, there could be someone that opens up a 4 or 5 million litre distillery in England, because that's the other thing as well, is there's world whiskey everywhere. Yes. What's the English whiskey benefit? Well, not only are there an amazing set of producers instead of a singular brand driving the category, I think the other thing to take into mind as well is we've got some pretty famous neighbours, to the north, to the west, to the west. We've got some really famous neighbours that have been making whiskey at a high standard for a long time. So from a climate, sourcing of raw materials, and then production and aging, we're a tiny little space that are producing really, really high quality liquids.
So with that in mind, now I'm going to I put this question to everyone. I put this to, obviously, the three of you and to the chat.
Yeah.
What would you like to see different? Where would you like to see change from what Scotch is allowed to do? But then where would you like to see alignment? Where would you like, where do we think the protection would maybe, where can we learn from the positives of the SWA, but where can we make changes from the SWA?
Yeah, huge question. Huge question, really, as well, because some people would say that the SWA don't really put restrictions on, and then some people would say that they do. Like I say, from our point of view at the Cotswolds, the flexibility of using other woods is amazing. Seasonings, we don't have to worry about tequila and mezcal and things like that they've been pushing for years to get through the SWA. We were just like, let's just get it. And there are other woods that we've been able to do as well. Mixed grains. I mean, that's something that within the EWG, there are a lot of rye producers. There are people making, grain whiskey, and it can still be deemed under the EWG as well. There you go. Oxford Rye, aka Fielden. Did you see that today?
Yeah, rebranded, mate. Yeah, you've missed a lot.
They've rebranded, and they no longer make whiskey in Oxford anymore. So it's based up their productions elsewhere, and they're a brand known as Fielden now. The liquid's still the same. They've just changed the brand completely.
I thought you were about to say they moved to Scotland. And
No.
But Ben, I'll let you have a guess on this. So they've rebranded and called themselves Fielden. Guess who pumped the money into that with a name like that?
Oh, I have no idea.
Diageo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Isn't it not, Rob?
Distill Ventures, which is Diageo's incubator.
Yeah.
So other brands within Distill Ventures are Starward, Stowning, and then Fielden, Oxford Rye.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, I really struggled with Oxford Rye because I don't really like rye. That's the truth of it. So I powered through to try and get what I could out. So I'll be interested to see what they do. Truth be told,
I can literally. This can change for me on a near daily basis. Before or after I've had a piss, it'll taste different to me. Like, I literally cannot tell you what it is. Sometimes I'll rattle a dram of it and I'm like, actually enjoyed that. Other times I'm like, not a fan. When we had it at the Somerton Festival, actually, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, as we've been talking about recently, setting and is a really important thing. If you can try a whiskey where it was made, it will never taste better than that. I don't think.
Something about a warehouse, just rattling drams in a warehouse, just makes it taste better.
I think the other thing as well is, like I said earlier, people. And Charlie, who works at the Fielden Distillery, he's one of my favourites in the industry as well. Such a good crack, and so it's hard to dislike a whiskey when someone that works at the brand is just a good person.
Unless it's that bad. Not that I'm saying this is. Not I'm saying this is. I'm saying, but if it's that bad. But okay. Well, where do we think the SWA got it right? What do we think? What protections do we think could be in place?
I think they got it right because of the speed in which they act. In my opinion, tends to be pretty swift. In a legal sense, legalities tend to be pretty slow. But when they catch wind of someone breaching it, they tend to come down on them pretty hard, pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I like that. When someone's really messing about. When what's that famous example? Was it like Compass Box? Which I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that they were messing about, but also they got stopped real quick.
Yeah, see, I think that's where they got it wrong.
Okay.
Because this is what conversation's all about.
Fight.
I think that whiskey and people within whiskey, no one was doing this 20 years ago, but Scotch whiskey existed and it was what it was, and there are brands that existed then that exist now. Whereas, we're all on this journey where we're looking for as much information on a whiskey as we possibly can. We want to be indulged. We're going to ask questions. We want answers. That's what whiskey consumers do. And I think that what Glazer did at Compass Box was just give people information that they deserve. Now, I think what the SWA are doing is protecting certain brands that might not want to give people that transparency. And I think what I would like to see would be, it's your call. If you want to be transparent with everything that you do, go for it. And if you don't, there shouldn't be anyone forcing you to either.
No, that's a very good point, actually. I was literally talking today because not to talk about Scotch too much, but I just released a video on the Ardrey blended. And one of the things was you can't find anywhere online that's natural colour and non-chill filtered, but it is.
Yeah.
And personally, I think that should be forced to be on the label. If it isn't, so if it's added colour and it's chill filtered, I think that should be forced. That's my personal opinion now, so that it takes all that ambiguity out of it. And I just don't understand why people don't put it on there if it's, if they don't put it on there when it is those things, when it's a good, not being very articulate, but you know what I mean.
Would Richard Patterson agree with you?
Definitely not. But I think that's where in my opinion, that's where it's got to change, because as consumers, we need to know that sort of thing. I don't really care about colour, to be honest.
You are right, though. I think that people, to a certain degree, on certain levels, do need to know. I think there are things that people need to be aware of, especially with the increasing sensitivities of the, people that have certain allergies and stuff like that. I think there is a declaration that needs to be adhered to. I don't know. Is anyone allergic to E150A? I'm not.
No, I'm not. And Christopher raises a good point in the chat. He says, "What if it's just very cold filtered?" And that's where it starts getting all challenging, isn't it? Because you can't just put everything on the label for sure. But it's. I wish there was more transparency, and I really love it when brands are more transparent. But then I vote with my wallet on those things anyway, so that's That's how you do things, right?
Well, what do we think the history, the future of English whiskey is going to be? Do we see it becoming a powerhouse of a spirit to compete with Scotch on a global market?
I'll let you two answer that.
Well, Jeff must have something to say. He's been there quiet for a bit.
He has, hasn't he?
I'm gonna.
We had to mute him, I think.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
In my defense, I was muted because, understandably. But if you do hear background thing, do feel free to mute me again halfway through. I can't imagine it'll ever get to that level, but I think that's a good thing. So I think English whiskey, the better English whiskey gets, the better Scotch has to get, as I'm thinking. So if Scotch whiskey starts seeing English whiskey as a threat, I can hear it. Sorry, is that me beeping away?
Yeah, you're fine. Carry on.
I can't hear it.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll get to that level due to the long history of Scotch. But I definitely think English whiskey, it seems now when you look at some websites, instead of it being Scotch, Irish whiskey, and bourbon, a couple of times I've seen English whiskey as a category, and it's not just world whiskey.
Well, let's check Master of Malt is my go-to for this. Let's see if Master of Malt have got it on there yet.
I'd love to see it more on bar menus, especially in England. Like you go down to London and you go into these places that deem themselves as like 5-star hotel bars with the best whiskey collection in all of London. It's like, oh, what you got from England? And they'll usually have one distillery and there's no marking on their menu. And the guy who's selling, or the woman that's selling you the whiskey usually is just like, oh, we got this one. I don't really know what it is. And it's like, come on, man. Like in England, don't you think we should at least have something that signifies a category? 3 or 4 brands. It's not hard to choose them anymore.
I've once seen the Lakes listed under Scotch whiskey. I have.
I'm pretty sure I've seen, oddly enough, Cotswolds just on a menu under Scotch. But to be fair, I've also definitely seen plenty of menus that have Scotch and Jack Daniels listed under there as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe right there is an opportunity for a body such as the EWG to be at the forefront of ensuring that, well, not so much ensuring, but putting some time and effort into awareness of the category, awareness that it is a distinct category. It does have its own identity and, you know, its own GI, so that it can be respected as such, because I think it deserves it. I really do. I think too many times, you know, a big part of our conversation has been, I think, constructively looking at the similarities and differences between Scotch and English whiskey. But I think, you know, I think we all agree that it's very much deserves to be recognised as its own category. It has its own merits, and I would like to see it grow. Is it going to take someone like Daddy Diageo to come in, buy up a couple of distilleries and start ticking over a few places past, like, you know, 1 million litres a year and stuff to do it?
The thing with El Diego is as soon as they start investing in a brand, they tell them to take the geography out of their brand. So as soon as they've invested in distilleries from Australia, Denmark, and England, the first thing they say to them from a branding standpoint is, yeah, you need to take the geography out of your brand. It doesn't travel very well. So I guess that shows you the confidence that they have in the category. Now, me personally, over the last year, you know, Berry Brothers and Rudd, the oldest wine merchants in the world, invested 10% into our company. Lakes just got bought out. English Whiskey Co. won Best World Whiskey. You know, this is all in the space of 12 months. If you need a vote of confidence in category, we're starting to see more, and Distill Ventures and Oxford Rye that's now Fielden. It's more and more and more, and I think what we've got to appreciate about English whiskey is that it's still an underdog. It's still not given the respect that it deserves, which is fine because the quality's there and you can still get it at a good price. What my concern is, and you know, every single person sat here and probably watching this remembers being able to buy Hibiki 12 for 50 quid. Remembers being able to buy Yamazaki 12 for like 40 quid. My worry is that certain things get out of hand to the point where, well, like I say, 4 million litres a year, if you stretch that with a global popularity that certain other whiskies go through, the only way to really justify that is to push prices up. And that's one thing that I don't want to see. I want to see people drinking and enjoying English whiskey on a regular basis. And luckily, because the category is so small, I think we've got years and years and years before that's going to happen. But that is a fear.
Can I interject? Where you mentioned about the price point, how do you feel about Cotswolds? So, for instance, Cotswolds Signature, not too long ago, went on sale on Jeff Bezos' House of Bangers for 25 quid a bottle.
Yeah, that
Bezos'
was
House of Bangers.
Jeff Bezos' house. Yeah, that was a dark time for us. And you know, I'll be completely candid about that. That was due to being delisted from Sainsbury's.
Really?
So yeah, that was a clearance price, and then obviously old Jeff has an algorithm that scrapes the internet, and the lowest price deemed on the internet is what he will drop his price to immediately, and that's on all products. And yeah, you know, again, going back to what I said at the beginning, we thought that going into supermarkets would be the ultimate hack as a brand. That is how you get all your bills paid, and you can just swan off into the sunset because grocery will pay for everything. And, you know, that's not how it works. The volumes that you get from grocery, great, absolutely brilliant. But guess what? If you want to be in the supermarkets, you got to go on price promotion. You want to go on price promotion, that's online. And then, like I say, Whiskey Exchange, Master of Malt, and Jeff's little old website, they've all got algorithms that bring the price down to whatever is on offer. The problem with that is, it's not just them. You go into a foreign market and you want to sell your whiskey, they've got people that scrape the internet and benchmark against that pricing as well. So all of a sudden you're in grocery, you're enjoying whatever grocery's bringing in, but in the same breath, you've got markets that you're trying to tender for going, hey, that's a nice price point. That's what you're going to sell into our market in as well. You're like, right, all of a sudden the grocery listings are making our pricing plummet, and then other countries are benchmarking on that lower price, and you're just in this like Lewis Carroll black hole spiraling out of control. So, Jeff, you know, 25 quid didn't happen on Signature, and we have been working with our new distribution partner really hard for the last year to not guarantee, but I'm going to say it, guarantee that doesn't happen again. But you know, I'd rather be completely open about the pitfalls of what it's like. If you think you can hack the system by just going, we'll bang it in the supermarkets and we'll be golden, you won't be.
That was a really interesting peek behind the curtain.
Mm.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No
Right.
worries.
Before we wrap this up, I'm going to hit the liquor picker one more time because I do want to know what it is I'm going to be drinking. In the after party, as usual, the after party is going to be in Vin's Discord. He's going to drop a link in the chat. Bimber recharge. No, I can't have another Bimber. This is not rigged. I'm not double Bimbering. That takes the piss. Right, let's
You're
see.
not double fisting Bimber.
No comment. It's just.
It's definitely a saying. I've definitely said it in a pub before, and I've got 2 drinks.
That's probably why you got the drinks, because you were double fisting.
Filth. It's past the watershed, I guess.
Oxford Rye! For fuck's sake, I've just had one of those! Liquor picker is doing me dirty. Right, 3rd time's a charm.
I could just pick one for you from this list if I could see it stop spinning.
Well, that's not how it works, Vin. It spins, bud. Otherwise, it would just be a circle. What have we got?
What's your Harvey Nichols one? What's that?
Oh, I'll tell you all about that.
That's a Bim. No, that's a Lakes, isn't it?
That's
English Whiskey Co.
Yeah, English Whiskey Co. And I can't lie, it slaps. Big shout out to Stevie, who I think I was meant to give this back to when I went and saw him the other week, but didn't. So I've still got it. We did a bottle swap, and I think he gave me mine back. I didn't give him his back, so I feel kind of bad. But I'll rattle a dram of it in a minute. What was it? Henston single malt.
While Ben's finding his latest
I do have one of them.
Rob, I was always wondering, what is your favourite, if you have one, independent bottling of Cotswolds? I'm only aware of 2. The Wax House one, which was amazing, and then the Boutique Whiskey Company one with the swan on the front. They're the only two I know of, but is there any that...
So I just did one, like I say, with Georgie and Fabrizio over at the Hard Cut, and that was a new char cask. And if you ever get an opportunity, go to the Hard Cut and buy a bottle. They're really good because they only work with New World distilleries. They do everything in 50 cl, which means that the price point is right, so you can get a decent single cask for sub £100 always, which is crack on. George and Fabrizio are also two of my favourite people, and the new char from us is just outstanding. And they do it at a good ABV as well, 54%, so it's really good. We've got one coming up with a very old wine merchant that's all I can say.
That's enough.
No, we've already done one with Berry Brothers, so we're ruling out Berry Brothers.
It's got to be Nicholson Perks then, isn't it?
I don't know. You'll have to talk to the guy that sells all the single casks. I don't know. I don't know. That's going to be quite exciting. But my favourite, I will have to say from a sentimental point of view, will be the one that we did with Berry Brothers, simply because it was the first one. It's the first cask I ever sold personally, which was really cool. But we don't need to line the pockets of Berry Brothers anymore. I think they're okay. So I did a single cask new char with the guys at the Hideout in Bath. So if anyone's in Bath, go to the Hideout. The drinks are amazing. It's all hip hop. It looks like a pirate's cave. They've got their own single cask of Cotswolds, which is new char. I just don't think there's anything else that you could ever want from a whiskey bar than what they do. They're the best in the business.
I am fucking sold on that. We have just had a question come in. Rob, how do taxes affect English whiskey versus Scotch?
Taxes?
Same.
Uber. No, I'm joking.
I was going to say, yeah, we're in the middle of nowhere, so it's expensive. Taxes are high. Very, very high. There's no tax breaks, and the other thing as well is that the government don't support in any way, shape, or form. So the Welsh government really support the Welsh whiskey category. So if you go and do trade fairs in other countries, the Welsh government will actually subsidise that to a certain degree. So if you want to go and do something in Singapore or China, the Welsh government will subsidise it. The English government don't do anything to help. So tax-wise, it sucks. Duty still as high as ever, and yeah, tax breaks. They're still not. I mean, they froze duty this year. Whoop-de-doo, but they don't do anything for us yet. And I think that's where it's got to change. Is that we actually need support as a baby category from our own government.
I agree. I'd love to see English whiskey become a more of a recognised powerhouse of spirit. And on that note, we're going to call it there. Thank you very much, Rob, for joining us. Now, I believe you have a podcast. If you would like to tell the people where they can find it, where they can find you on socials.
Yeah, so a podcast is called I Want to Like Whiskey, and it is literally targeted more at those people that have said those words. So people that want to like whiskey but don't really know how about going about it. So I always chat with people within the industry about how they got into it, what they recommend, and the general consensus is you've got to go to Islay, highballs aren't a crime, and people that tell you what to do with your whiskey can off.
Sorry, you can F and Jeff here. We've already got Jeff, so bring the Fs.
I'll bring the yeah. People that tell you what to do with your whiskey can fuck off. And unfortunately, it's usually white bearded men, but not me and not you guys, so it's fine.
Break that stereotype.
And then socials, Instagram at the Cotswolds Rob. Just bang follow, ask questions. I'm always open to answering messages and answering questions. And if you can't tell already, I'm quite an open book in that regard as well.
Absolute hero. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Jane, are you going to hopefully you can join us for the after party? Hopefully you can. I'm not going to make you commit to anything right now because it is a school night after all. Thank you as well to Jeff and of course No Nonsense Vin PF. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching. I've really enjoyed this. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream and I was kind of shitting my pants before I came on, but a couple of drams and lo and behold, everything's just fine. So
You've
thank
done
you.
a stellar job, mate.
Well done, mate.
Cheers,
well
but
done.
and I
Cheers
just
to
saw
you.
I just saw the super chat from Vin and his cat. Thank you so much, Vin. I really enjoyed that, mate.
Welcome, buddy. Well hosted. Well done.
Thank you very much. Right, well, I'll see you all in the after party. Cheers.